bum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-da-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum.
Welcome to Everyday Musicality, the podcast in which we discuss all things related to Gordon's music learning theory and how it can help unlock the inner musician that lives inside of all of us. I'm your host, Heather Shouldice, music educator and faculty member for the Gordon Institute for Music Learning. In this episode, I share the story of my own MLT journey. Hello and welcome to the Everyday Musicality podcast. Before we get rolling today, I just wanted to remind you that this podcast is sponsored by the Gordon Institute for Music Learning and that they have an event coming up this Saturday, March 13th, featuring Gimmel faculty Wendy Valerio and Allison Reynolds. The title is Jump Right Into Early Childhood Music Again and Again, and it's free for Gimmel members and only $20 for non-members. I'll link to that event in the show notes. Also, if you entered the last giveaway from sponsor GIA Publications but didn't win, I have a surprise. I'm doing a bonus giveaway of the Developing Musicianship Through Improvisation Book 1B, which I'll announce the winner of at the end of this episode. In today's episode, I'm going to take some time to do something that I probably should have done already, but just didn't think to. I've been recently listening to a brand new podcast called Keys to Music Learning, all about applying MLT to the piano studio. Even if you're not a piano teacher, like I'm not, I think there's lots of great MLT-related information in this show, so I highly recommend subscribing to Keys to Music Learning. In the first two episodes, the co-hosts, Krista Yadro and Hannah Mayo, each shared a bit about their backgrounds and their experiences with music learning theory, and it occurred to me that I've never done that. I mentioned in the previous episode when I was chatting with Cindy Taggart that I discovered MLT in her methods classes, but I thought I'd share a bit more today about my MLT journey. If you had asked me 20 years ago if I could have ever imagined myself teaching music to young children, I would have laughed in your face and said, no way. Because at that time, when I was beginning as an undergraduate music major, I didn't even want to teach. My dream was to one day make a living playing my clarinet. Music had always been a huge part of my life. I grew up in a musical family. All my siblings and I played instruments. My mom and sister led the church choir, and so I grew up surrounded by music. In high school, I decided that I wanted to spend the rest of my life making music, specifically playing my clarinet. I loved playing. I remember back in middle school, I would record clarinet choirs by myself using 2 tape recorders. Remember those? You youngsters out there probably don't even know what those cassette tape players are. But I would record myself playing one part on one tape recorder, and then I would play that recording while I played the second part of my clarinet and recorded on another tape recorder. And then I would play that cassette tape and record a third part. It was like the old school version of what everybody's doing now on things like acapella and TikTok, so I guess I was ahead of my time. So anyway, I wanted to play my clarinet for a living, but I also wanted to be sure I could afford to eat, so I decided to major in music education as my backup plan. If my dreams of performing didn't pan out, or if I needed to make some extra money on the side, I was willing to lower myself to teaching college or possibly high school band. But clarinet was my passion. I practiced for 3 or 4 hours a day, I joined every ensemble or chamber group I could, and I fully intended to go on to graduate school to get a master's degree in clarinet performance. But that all changed when I discovered MLT. In the 3rd year of my music education degree program at Michigan State University, which was where I went, I had to start choosing music education electives courses. And a friend of mine told me that there was this really fun baby music class that I had to take. So I enrolled in early childhood music methods, and lo and behold, I walked into Cindy Taggart's classroom. And my life would literally never be the same. Learning about music learning theory in Cindy's early childhood and then elementary general music courses opened my eyes to the musical potential in every individual and turned virtually all of my previously held beliefs about music education upside down. So, what was it about MLT that was so compelling it led me to change what I wanted to do with my life? Without a doubt, it was seeing and hearing the evidence of the tremendous impact it can have on students' musicianship. I encountered this evidence in my MLT-based methods courses and couldn't believe what was possible. Infants who vocalized on the resting tone of a song they were hearing, elementary school students who understood the concepts of tonic and dominant and could hear and describe the difference between major and minor tonalities, beginning band or recorder students who can play tunes and bass lines by ear and even improvise over a given harmonic progression. Amazing. Not only did these possibilities completely shock me, as I'd never imagined that was possible in children, but I have to admit, I was jealous. Yes, I was jealous. I was unspeakably envious that I never had the opportunity to develop these skills when I was a child. If I had, how much easier would aural skills classes have been as a college music major? I wouldn't have even needed those classes. So these realizations opened my eyes to new possibilities for what music teaching and learning could look like, and instilled in me this burning desire to provide these experiences for as many children as possible. I wanted them to have the opportunities that I so desperately wished I had had. To learn music through their ears, to develop a deep inner understanding of music, and to become as fluent at music making as they were at speaking their native language. These things, which most of us had to work so hard at as college music majors, can come naturally to young children if they're guided in a developmentally appropriate, sequential way. It was through discovering that children were capable of these sophisticated musical skills and understandings that my views of teaching elementary general music changed. Prior to this discovery, I would have never imagined myself teaching elementary music because my schema for what it meant to teach elementary music was based on my own experiences in music class as a child, playing games, singing songs with cute lyrics, squeaking out hot cross buns on the recorder over and over again, and generally just having fun and having us love music. And none of that seemed really like a worthwhile use of my time or abilities. Besides, elementary general music wasn't where the real music making happened. Or so I thought at the time. Back then, I believed the real music making only began once students were older and were able to play complicated repertoire like the whole suites for band, right? In time, however, MLT helped me realize that while students in a band might be able to push the correct buttons on their instruments and follow the instructions of their director enough to make their performance of the piece sound good, this doesn't mean they have any aural understanding of the sounds they're making, or that they could create their own musical sounds in an intentional, cohesive way. So while I was still an undergraduate, I started teaching early childhood music, and then after graduation, I went on to teach elementary general music for 10 years in different districts in Michigan. After teaching for 2 years in one district, I was lucky enough to be hired in a new district where I got to work with some fantastic MLT colleagues, including my mentor, Jennifer Bailey. That same year I started in the Farmington Public Schools, I took my GIML Level 2 course in elementary general music, and that was when Cindy approached me and said, "You should think about doing your PhD." At the time, I thought that was crazy, but the seed was planted. Along the way, while I was teaching, I began presenting about audiation-based teaching and learning at workshops and conferences, and I was also nominated to become GIML faculty in elementary general music. All those experiences made me realize that, in addition to working with students, I also loved working with teachers. It was great helping my own 400 or 500 students build their musical skills and independence through MLT, but working with teachers has the potential to reach so many more students. So I hemmed and hawed for a few years because I just couldn't bite the bullet and give up teaching kids. That is, until the end of my 8th year of teaching, my 6th year in the Farmington Schools District, I got my first ever pink slip. This was back in 2010, right after the big collapse of 2008, and the district announced they were closing 4 of its elementary schools, and they pink slipped a quarter of our 40-person music department, including me. And they told me, we probably won't have a job for you next year, and if we do, it'll be high school marching band. To which I said, no thanks. But as luck would have it, I got a call from Cindy saying they had a graduate assistantship at MSU that didn't get filled, and it was mine if I wanted it. So I saw that as my kick in the pants to go get my doctorate and go into higher education, which is what I do now at Eastern Michigan University in Ypsilanti, Michigan. In all of my work as a music educator, I have strongly believed that MLT is invaluable because it can aid us in equipping our students with tangible musical skills and understanding. In doing this, they can develop into independent music makers and musical thinkers. If we can help our students to become musically independent, they will hopefully continue on to a lifetime of musical engagement, not just as passive consumers or audience members, but as musicians themselves. Now, although they may not go on to pursue a professional career in music, every student can become a competent music maker with the ability to create and express their own musical thoughts throughout their daily lives. What an inspiring mission for our work as music educators. The catch-22, however, is that much of what makes MLT so inspiring and fulfilling to teach is also what makes it incredibly challenging to teach. MLT requires a tremendous amount of musicianship from the teacher. This includes the ability to sing and chant in a variety of tonalities and meters, fluency with tonal and rhythm solfege, and proficiency in tonal and rhythmic improvisation without relying on an instrument. Furthermore, MLT is an incredibly sophisticated theory with many layers and details to process and wrap your brain around. 20 years after discovering MLT, I'm still continuing to deepen my own understanding. And Dr. Gordon himself used to say that even he didn't know everything there was to know about MLT because it was always evolving. However, the tremendous level of musicianship and understanding required to implement MLT in a truly masterful and artful way are exactly why I have found it so compelling. In 20 years of teaching using MLT, I have rarely been bored. Well, maybe in staff meetings, but that doesn't count. I've been continually challenged and fully engaged in teaching with MLT because my own musicianship is constantly stretching, and I'm always intellectually stimulated by the endeavor to create more thoughtful, purposeful, and sequential learning experiences for students. In his book, Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us, author Daniel Pink argues that there are 3 elements necessary for a person to be truly intrinsically motivated to do something. Those 3 elements are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. First, autonomy means that we need to feel like we have some freedom and control in what we're doing, which helps engage us in thinking creatively. Second, mastery means there's potential for growth, the opportunity to continue improving your skills through learning and practice, and this allows us to feel accomplished and fulfilled with each increased bit of that mastery. And third, purpose means there is a reason behind what you're doing. There's a bigger picture why you're doing what you're doing, and that purpose drives your day-to-day actions and interactions. I believe that these 3 elements, autonomy, mastery, and purpose, are inherent in MLT. First, MLT is not a method, and thus the teacher has to make their own decisions about how they will implement MLT in their teaching. For me, that sense of autonomy, of essentially building my own method using the frameworks of MLT, has always been incredibly motivating. It gives me all the tools to design my own curriculum rather than having it dictated for me. Second, there is always something to work at in MLT-based teaching. Whether it's fluency in tonal solfege and rhythm syllables, audiating in various tonalities and meters, or improvising, the growth can be infinite. While that might sound intimidating, I find it very engaging and fulfilling to know that even as my students are growing musically, so am I. Finally, MLT connects me with a greater sense of purpose. It connects me with my ultimate goal, which is to help students become independent musicians who don't need a music teacher to tell them how the music should go, but who have the music inside of themselves, and to help bring that music out in ways that will help students lead richer, fuller lives, both while they're in school and hopefully for decades to come. So that's the story of my MLT journey. I would love to hear about yours as well. Please reach out and share it with me by sending an email or a voice memo to everydaymusicality@gmail.com. Just a few quick notes before I go. Don't forget about that online event that Gimel is hosting this Saturday, March 13th, which is free for Gimel members and only $20 for non-members. I have details in the show notes. Also, I wanted to give you an update on my book, tentatively titled Weaving It All Together, a practical guide to implementing Gordon's music learning theory in the elementary general music program. I've heard back from GIA Publications that they've had some slowdown in production due to the pandemic, but things are finally moving along with my manuscript, and they're shooting to have it available in advance of this summer's Gimel conference. So I'll share more information on that as it becomes available. Finally, it's time to announce the winner of the bonus giveaway from sponsor GIA Publications, that copy of Developing Musicianship Through Improvisation Book 1B. And the winner of that book is Matt Novachis. I hope I pronounced that close enough for Matt to know that he is the winner. Matt, email your preferred mailing address to everydaymusicality@gmail.com and I'll get that out to you. In the next episode, I'll be kicking off a mini-series on music aptitude, and the next giveaway at the end of those episodes will be one of Dr. Gordon's published music aptitude tests valued at $100. So stay tuned if you'd like to enter for your chance to win. In the meantime, if you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, please get in touch. You can email me or send me a voice memo at everydaymusicality@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and let's keep musicking every day.